All right, I'm recording. Want to welcome you. Thank you for coming. I hope everyone is having a great time. Several hours into this conference, I hope you're enjoying all of the sessions. I've seen the presenters list. It's got a lot of great people that are coming in. Hello, New York, Texas, Saudi Arabia, Alabama. We've been all over the United States, all over the world already. My name is Sarah Kiefer. I am located in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is the southwest corner. I am a technology integration specialist for the Ross Local School District. It's not a large district by any stretch. We have just under 3,000 students, and I am a former classroom teacher, 5th grade, and then also 7th and 8th grade. And then I moved into my current role, which is a technology integration specialist. And when I accepted that position, I was told, after I accepted it, that it was going to be down at the elementary level. So I moved down to our pre-K to 4. I am split between 2 buildings actually, and I 100% love it. It gives me 2 different views to see all of the time. And then I can share between, and our buildings feel a little less of silos, even though we're a relatively small district. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and the presentation is coming up again in the chat. Please feel free to pop in the chat questions, comments, things that you maybe would like answered. I will do my best to keep an eye on that. This should be the presentation that you see. Moving things around here, make it a little bit better. Thank you for coming and joining, and I am so excited. This truly is a huge passion of mine. I might even say that I'm a little bit of a nerd about it, and I'm okay with that. I think that it's like everything that I try to share out, like my website says, tech you can do. I like to try to share things out, and I like to frame them in ways that you can do this, anyone can do this. And what I also try to do is kind of change people's mindsets as far as what you're using and how you're actually using it. So actually I'm gonna switch tabs. So here's the title screen. You can see I do have a website, techyoucando.com, because that is my firm belief that you can do technology. And I'm on Twitter, KieferSJ. Please tweet at me. I love getting that interaction. On my website, you'll be able to find an email that you can email me if you have future questions. You want to come back and circle around and ask me a clarification, maybe after you attend here and you're curious about other things. Please do email me, Twitter at me, however you would like to comment and get back to me. I would love to have that interaction, because I do believe that we are better together. I don't have it all. I don't have all of the answers, but someone out there probably does. And if I don't have them, I do promise I will try to help you get to where you need to be. So thank you for coming. I do have a couple of places that you can find resources, and right here in the slide deck, you can link to my blog, techyoucando.com. I do try to share out about once a week. And then I have a second blog where it's not like a lot of details. I just share out resources. So maybe I come across a great science website. I'll share that out real quickly. I'm not going through and really digging deep into it. It's more, hey, science teachers, maybe you could take this and run with it. Or maybe it's a great article that I think you could read, and I'll throw that out there, and then you can read it if you want to or not. And then I also do have a third place, and it's one that is very, very close to my heart, and I have co-created this with one of my colleagues. Her name is Beth Kingsley. She teaches 3rd grade at one of my buildings, and we started noticing a lot of teachers were asking us like, hey, you did this in so-and-so's classroom. Can you share that to me? Can I do that with my kids? Do you have a copy of that? And we got together, and I said to her, I said, Beth, I think we could share this out with a bigger audience. I said, what if we made a website and we shared this all out? And sure enough, we did. And we had to switch it over from our first iteration. We're now on version 2, which is what is linked in here. So you'll see it looks a little bit different than maybe if you have ever visited templatesforteachers.com prior. We've updated a little bit. We're adding more templates. We're kind of readjusting things. And again, templates, go for them. Take them, use them, make them work for you and your students. All right. So my Twitter handle is @KieferSJ. Also on the, thank you, Tyler. It's also on that title slide, and that is a hyperlink. If you would like to, you could click on it and move it out. So the backstory to this whole presentation is one of the other hats that I wear. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a teacher. You know, I love Google. I do everything Google. It's just my thing. But I'm also the co-coordinator of our 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip. And I stepped up a couple years ago to help Alyssa, and we just felt like things were kind of like the information was kind of in a lot of different places, and we want to bring it all together. And I said to Alyssa, I said, I really think an app would be great. I said, but I don't know how to make an app. I don't even know where to begin. Kind of did a little dabbling with it. Hello, Bruce. Thanks for joining. Tyler, I see you in there too. You know, these 8th grade trips, they're like a chance in a lifetime. And Sue, I know, like, it's heartbreaking to know that some of these kids have lost out on that this year. But we really wanted to keep all of that communication and all of the information, trying to keep it as much as possible in one spot. And I knew an app was the answer, but the time factor, the cost factor, you know, list all of these things out. And then I came upon this gentleman named Micah Shippey. And he threw out this idea. I've got it linked here. I'm not going to go to it, but this red square right here links you out to his proposed classroom app. And I was like blown away. I was like, this is it. I called Alyssa. I was like, this is the answer. This is what we need. And she was like, okay, go for it. You got this. And that's my cheerleader. She comes and she cheers me on. She smiles. She gives me her honest opinion, and we move forward. So I landed on Micah's idea that you can create an app, and I always do app because you're not going to find it in the App Store, with a Google slide. I know. If you're sitting there going, Sarah, you're crazy. No way. I actually had a lady come up to me, and she said to me, I came to your session, and this was, I presented last year. I presented on this, and she said, I came to your session because I thought you were full of just baloney. She's like, I didn't believe it. I read the session description. She's like, I have got to see this. So I said, really? And she goes, I'm blown away. You did a great job. So yeah, it doesn't sound like it, but I promise you Google Slides is your answer for quite a bit of everything that you need. So we're going to continue on this adventure, and I call this level 1. I call this level 1 for a reason. This is where I started. Okay. I've been doing this Google Slides app for 4 years. I've been in this process. I don't currently use slides for the 8th grade trip. We moved on to level 2 and even into some of the going beyond. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get into all of that today, just our time purposes, because I get so wrapped up in all of these different little things. I'm just so excited about all of this stuff that I just know that I would lose track of time, and I'll never end at 6:45, 6:50, whenever I'm supposed to stop. You might just have to cut me off. But I do have all of the information linked at the end. So we'll get through the Google Slides part, and then if you're interested or you go, yeah, that's old news to me, you can move on to level 2 and check that out. And then you could even go beyond if you would like. So, and that's where I say, if you have questions, you need to come back, you need to ask questions and all that kind of stuff. You know, feel free, reach out, tweet at me, Kiefer SJ. All right, so here's the big piece to building your app, right? You have to have this idea. We had an idea. I had a need, and I saw a potential design idea, thought process, and I took it and I kind of twirled it all up and I made it work. And I think I made it work pretty successfully. Our parents were very happy with it. Our students loved it. I loved it. I still have the original version on my phone. I just love it that much. And I know that, like, that's crazy. So really there's 6 steps, depending on how much you want to break out. Like, do you separate, publish, and share? And so there's these 6 steps that I went through in creating this. And we're not going to have time to go into super detail. I'll go over it as we build this app, but you are welcome to. This up here, this title up here is a link to the very detailed description of each of these, of your why, of your theme, what to include, your tips, all of that kind of stuff. So this is very heavy with links to other places. Please feel free, go out and check them out. Maybe not right now. Maybe you stay focused. I don't know. If you can handle it, go out. Maybe you've got 3 or 4 devices going and you want to move out, go for it. That's awesome. So my why, I had it. I needed some place to keep everything together. My theme was very easy. It's my school district, Ross. We're the Rams, we're maroon and gold. Everything on that app was maroon and gold themed. What to include, that was a process over time. I didn't have as much at first. And then I started to include more. And as I got more comfortable with the ins and outs of using slides as an app, I would add in some more. And then I've got some tips packed in there for you, how you can publish and share it. And then finally wrapping it up, bringing it all together. And obviously I needed to give thanks to Micah Shippey for the idea, first of all, to Alyssa, who's always there. She's cheering me on. Our principal, our superintendent, who said, yeah, run with it, go for it, share it out. And then everybody else that's helped me along the way. So what we're gonna do, this is where I'm going to suggest that we stop and we go, Sarah, that's all great and all, but this just looks like it's a Google slide. It's a Google slide, that's all. And I say, this doesn't look like an app. Of course it's not, of course not. But this is where the presentation for all of the goodies, you know, so it's got these links to other things. Antoinette, if you go back and you click on, let me go back, this up here, you see how my cursor turned into a hand? If you come up and you click on your very own slides app, it will take you out to another presentation that will give you the detailed information. So what we have to do is we have to adjust our perspective. We need to adjust how we're looking at this. So what I want you to do, and this is kind of like the play along part of the presentation, take your phone and scan this QR code. And if you're not aware, I learned this a little more than a year ago. If you use the camera on, and you have a more up-to-date phone, I think like probably in the last like 2 years or so, you're probably safe. Use your camera app. Your camera app actually is a QR code reader. You don't have to have an outside QR code reader. Go ahead and scan it. I'm gonna scan it too, just so I can kind of play along as well. And it'll give you guys a little bit of time. Okay, I scanned it and I pulled it up, and then you should be getting a cute little message. Did you get it? Did you get my little laughing emoji dude? Yep. And if you are not able to go mobile and you just click on that QR code, this is what should be showing up on your phone. Yep, I tricked you. Ha ha. I did. I tricked you because I wanted to show you how you actually go ahead and you do this. Okay? So what we need to do is I need to get into this. All right, so I am actually now in the editing side of a Google slide. If you do anything with Google Slides, you should be very comfortable at this point, right? So this is your Google slide. This is where everybody starts out. The first thing that you have to do, and this is truly the first step in making this look and feel and behave like an app, is you have to format it to physically fit, you know, the vast majority of phones. I'm not going to tell you that the numbers I've got down here in the corner, I'm not going to tell you that that is actually the best for every single phone or tablet or whatever, but it's one that I think kind of works better than anything else. So what we're going to do is, these numbers are important because if you're not aware of this, you can actually adjust slides to different sizes. To do that, you go up to File and you come all the way down, almost to the bottom, Page Setup. We don't want to leave it on widescreen. We want to go custom, and we even want to switch this to pixels. Now, I chose pixels because I feel like that just helps with the sizing a little bit better. Again, I'm not an app expert. I'm not going to tell you that this is all perfect. 1125, 24 by 6. Make sure that says pixels. You could obviously measure a device and figure it out with inches or centimeters or points. And then you go, whoa. Yep, looks a little bit different. And the cool part is if you go back to your phone or you are still on your phone and you hit your refresh button, there you go. Your phone should also now reflect this. And this might be where you go, ooh, there's a lot of black on the sides. Like maybe I need to adjust it a little bit better. That's up to you. And again, this is something you're going to keep going. So then you say, okay, Sarah, well, that's okay. Still doesn't look like an app. And remember how I said you got to like bring in your theme. You have to decide how you're going to make it look. So let's go into a classroom setting. Let's think about a classroom. And in a classroom, you're not going to have all of this stuff right here, are you? You're going to get rid of all of this. So this would be the first thing. You get it sized right. That still just looks kind of off to me. You get it sized right, and then I like to do a background. I like to give it some sort of grounding color. So I go to my background. For the background, I also like to keep it very, very, very simple. And I go, you know, my school district is maroon. This is for my classroom, so maybe I want to do something that's kind of similar. So I'm going to go with the red gradient, and I'm going to click done. Now, the thing that you can do here, and I do want to say something that I think can go a long way in making this app successful for your classroom. Bring the kids in on this. Like maybe you have a very generic start, but then when you bring your students in and your students help decide, like maybe there are a lot of teachers in the district where I work where they have like nicknames for their classrooms, or maybe you have a theme for the year. Bring the kids in and let them help create this and let them help decide these themes and these ideas. That way it will help them take a little bit of ownership with this. So here you've got your background, and then I prefer doing word art for the text. So I'm going to put Mrs. Kiefer because that's who I am. Maybe I want to put it up high. Maybe I want to fill this with a very dark color. Maybe I should use. And then if you haven't noticed this either, do you see the red lines kind of helps guide the center pieces? And then now that I have that how I like it, Mrs. Kiefer's, let's go with classroom app. Because this is for my classroom and I want to make sure that my parents are in the know, my students are in the know, and I'm leaving a big blank space in the center because I'm going to put some sort of picture in there. And like I said, maybe you start with something generic. Let's pretend that I am back in my 7th and 8th grade classroom and I am a history teacher. So I am just going to search the web and I'm going to find something historical. Maps are great. Ooh, let's just go with that cute history icon. Love being able to do that. Just, I'm not even going out of slides. I'm bringing this in and voila. I have like the title page of my app. And again, if you've got this on your phone, you could be watching this, hit that refresh button, boom, it pops up. And that's a really awesome thing about slides is when you close out, you come back in, it's all up to date. Even if you change it 5 seconds later, it's up to date. You don't have to wait for the next version to come out in the App Store. All right, so I keep talking. So I'm going to also cheat a little bit in a second. So now this is my title page, and then you say, well, Sarah, this doesn't really look like an app. I mean, kind of, it mimics, because you don't see all like the little icons or whatever. So here's the next piece. So this is just my title. So this is what they see when they open up. This is also a great place if you need to tuck important information. You could put in a text box and you could say, don't forget to sign the report cards or whatever. You know, some sort of very important information that you want to make sure that your students see, that your parents see, size it appropriately, you know, do all of that kind of thing. You could fill in the background, where's my little paint bucket, fill in that background with something bright that's eye-catching. You know, again, go crazy with your design. go crazy with it. It really can kind of draw the eye for other people. So what we're going to do now though is I'm going to insert a blank slide for slide 2. And here is where I am going to do a little bit of cheating. So because of time, I know that we're going to maybe not have a ton of. So I am going to cheat a tiny bit. So I have already sized out a square. And this is like a 1 by 1, I believe it's 1 by 1 square that kind of feels like on a phone, just the size of an app. So what I would do is put this little guy here, and then I'd maybe duplicate him and, you know, spread them out around on your screen, however you feel. And this is where taking a little bit of time and really kind of thinking about how many items you're going to need on your app or to contain in your app. You know, this is where like the layout of all of this comes into play big time. I'm going to zoom in a tiny bit just to make it a little bit easier for us to see. And here are like my buttons that are going to end up navigating to things like the homework schedule, or maybe to Google Classroom, or to a link that will take parents and or students to all of the digital resources that are provided to their students. Maybe it'll take them to a calendar or the class expectations, your syllabus, the things that you know you need to have. And what I really like to do is I'm a big believer in using icons to the point where I'm a very cheap person. I like to preserve my own bank account. I don't typically buy things, but I do have an account with Noun Project. And they do have an educator discount. It's 50% off. I highly recommend it. It's wonderful. So one of my favorites is like, let's get a contact icon. So look through here. I like to keep them black and white for the icon purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to go ahead and insert it. And then what I have to do is I need to resize it to make it work just a tad smaller than the square. So you see how now it kind of feels a little bit more like an app. What I would also suggest is you make these all different kinds of colors, and maybe those colors mean something. Maybe they're just random. They do help visually. You can say, click on the red one, click on the purple one, click on the, you know, maroon one, or the dark gray, whatever you want. And you've got that information right there. And then what you have to do is also give it some sort of label, right? So this is going to be our contact part, and I'm going to move that up there, shrink it a bit, and center it. You know, sit here and play with this all you want, right? Fill it in black so you can read it. And you say, oh, that's pretty cool, right? It kind of looks like it, but you just like, Sarah, it's not really an app. Again, not truly, and I don't mean to downplay that, but I totally get that it doesn't, it's not there yet. Again, if you've got it on your phone, you kind of see this. So here's where we have to go a little bit further, right? We're building this app out. I am going to add in, again, I'm cheating. I know that I'm cheating, and I hope you don't feel like I'm cheating you. Let's do that. So what I have done is I have added in an entire contact slide. So take what we just did and kind of multiply it out very quickly. And then let me explain the little pieces that are going on in here. Number one, I need to adjust these a bit. Like when you copy from one and you go to another, we gotta. Let's go a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay. So here's where really the fun begins. Okay, so we've got this contact button here, and when people click on it, I want it to come down to this particular slide. You could use the little arrows on, but not all parents are really comfortable with Google Slides. So here's my best tip for you. Best tip, hands down. I always take a shape. I like the rounded rectangle, that's just my preference. Cover over it with a bit of overhang on all four sides. And then here's the magic, okay? I am going to make this shape a link. And I'm going to make it link to slide 3. And if you, again, this is one of those pieces of slides that like just blew me away and was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that you could even do this, but you can. You can either click on the little link up here. I like the Control-K shortcut, and then you pick the slide. So I want it specifically to go to slide 3. I'm going to apply, and then you can even see that it shows up that way. What I also do then is I make it transparent, and I also make the border transparent. So you literally cannot see that transparent shape at all whatsoever. Like it disappears unless you're aware that it's there. So again, here's the place where I say, go back to your phone, refresh first, make sure you get all of the updates, and then try it out. Just by tapping on those little icons, because you think you're tapping on the icon, but you're really tapping on that clear, transparent shape that's linking you to. Now, you could just link this, but when you layer that icon on top, it ends up playing with like where their fingers, their little touch points and all that kind of stuff is. So be aware of that too. That's why I like the clear, transparent shapes. It covers over whatever kind of layers I've got going on there, whether it's 2 or 3 or 5, or I'm taking pieces and putting them together. That really is my best tip for you. Now, another great tip for you is the second best thing that I could tell you. If you're familiar with Google Slides at all, and you ever look at it on a phone or even with a trackpad or a mouse pad, you do understand that a lot of times clicking just somewhere, like if I were to go back to my presentation, if you click somewhere on here, it's going to move you to the next slide, which may not be your intended navigation when you're creating this app for your classroom. So my biggest and best tip is create these small little clear transparent shapes that cover over your linking. But here's my second big and best tip for you. It's take a shape and cover the entire slide. And I do mean the entire slide, like make it, and I make it even more ginormous, far bigger than the slide itself. And then what I do is I use the same linking idea, but I link it to itself. Now let me do this. So I'm gonna get rid of slide 3 because it's holding the format from the previous one. And I am over here, I can see that I'm on slide 2, so I need to link this one to, let's see if I can get there. Slide 2. Then I'm going to hit apply. And again, you say, well, Sarah, you can't see anything. You got to make it transparent. Don't forget that part. Now, when I do the big, clear, transparent shape over the entire page, I do leave a border because that reminds me visually that it's there. And now you say, well, Sarah, now I'm not going to go anywhere because I can't click on anything. That's the top layer. It is. So this is where, after you get them all figured out, you come back over, you grab this clear, transparent shape, and you bring it to the front, and then you make that ginormous again. And here's the beautiful part. I'm going to go ahead and present this here. I'm hoping that stayed. You can see the little hand, like it's going to stay on this slide no matter where I click, except for on that app. So keep that in, like, clear, transparent shapes are the powerhouse to an app, because those clear, transparent shapes, no matter what you've done to put all of these things together, you covered over with a big, clear, transparent shape, and nobody knows the difference. You know, maybe if they're watching their cursor, they're able to see, you know, the things that they can click and the things that they can't. But these clear, transparent shapes are really what give the power behind this particular app. So what I'm gonna do, let's see if I can, I'm gonna cheat again. And I'm going to, pop in a new slide. So here's one where I've got, oh, that was my basic. So here's one that maybe you found from somebody else or you've made copies. This is like one that I could take, and you can see I even make it, I just make it smaller over here off to the side. So maybe I want to take this and this, and I'm going to copy it, and I am going to move this guy over, and then I'm going to paste him on here, and I'm going to get him right where I want him to be. Again, this part takes a lot of like fiddling around. Let's go get up there. And then you would, honestly, you gotta keep, I would probably do this big, huge, clear, transparent shape last, and so that you're not constantly bringing to the front and all this kind of thing. But you definitely wanna have a clear, transparent shape over each of your apps. And then that way, those are always on top of your giant whole screen, whole slide, clear, transparent shape. D. Martin, yes, I am recording this, and yes, I will share this out later. I will definitely post it on Twitter for sure. Once it processes and all that kind of stuff, I will make a note, add a link to recording. I'll add a link to this presentation, so if you hold on to the link to this presentation, then that way you'll be able to also have the link to the recording. And Eric, yes, like I think this is a great way to prototype any app at all. Prototype it out. Like this could be done on paper and then put on slides, but this is where I say too, slides are collaborative. Bring all of your students in on this. Like this could totally 100% be a class app in the truest sense that the class is the one making these apps, and they're pushing out this information. If you notice, I have a homework area here. Have that linked to another slide that has the homework for the week, or have it linked to an outside like a Google Doc or something like that. Like whatever works for you, just know that the biggest drawback to a Google slide as an app is that stuff doesn't stay inside. Like you're linking out unless you're putting it on a slide itself. And to give you a better idea about that kind of stuff, I do have two different templates. Here's a travel themed app if you're interested. And then here's a classroom app that you could take the template and you could start. I've got it ready to go. I have some of those icons already in there. You see this is a cute little monster. I just thought that was cute, thinking that I'm always with the elementary kids. You can click on these little icons, that little rocket ship, and then this one here. And you can actually pull up what appears to be a Google slide. Like we can see, like it's got the navigation down here at the bottom. You can see the gold thing up here. But again, if this was shared out to parents or shared out to students and they pulled it up on their phone, then it would be, it would render and look like an app itself. So think about that, like cut off all of the black and click around, and you can see this is what a good feel of what my DC trip apps look like. One thing I did not cover, and I need to cover that before we run out of time. Oh, thank you, Courtney. Thank you. When you come to your app, probably a key button that you're going to want to create and then put on every slide would be your home button. So I'm going to actually take this little guy, I'm going to turn it into my home button. And I always put it in the top right corner. That way, anything that's at the bottom, it doesn't get out of the way. Oh, I moved the icon. Let me move the little gray square. And I would probably even add in an icon that's looks like a house, because you're going home. And I just do a real simple. Amina, you are welcome to make a copy of this presentation. You have the presentation if you grab that tiny URL that Courtney posted right above you. You can go to File, make a copy of my of the presentation. Hold on to it, email me, contact. I've had several people that have emailed me and said, hey Sarah, I want to make an app for my classroom. Can you help me? Absolutely. And again, use your clear transparent shape, right? Cover it over, and then I am going to move that. I need to move you. I'm going to get rid of that link, and I want to link this to slide 2. Apply. And then the cool part is you could just copy and paste this onto future slides, right? You can put it wherever you want, copy and paste over. Oh, Jackie, you're right. It is in presentation mode, but the cool part is in presentation mode over here, you can grab the travel themed app and you'll see when it pulls up in the top right corner, you can go ahead and click that use template. And then you have a template or a copy of this right here. Use my presentation as a reference point, not as a, this is, you know, this is, you're not gonna necessarily need all of this to make copies of. You can refer back to it. And then here's one for school. And then I wrote about each of these on my blog. So if you click on the names right here, it'll take you to my blog. And the one about the travel app, why I created it, how I did it, my thought process. And then also for the class app, it'll take you over there. And I do feel like I need to give a little bit of time. I could sit here and I could create an app with you guys. If you contacted me, I'd be more than happy to work through the whole thinking process here. But I always do understand that there are some pros and cons, because like I said, this was version 1.0 for me. So the pro is obviously it's free. It's a Google app. If you are in a district that uses G Suite tools, you have Google Slides. You know, you have it, your kids have it, all that kind of good stuff. Every time you open it up on your phone, it will be the most up to date. I needed to use that factor when we were in DC this past November, and we needed to divide up and we needed numbers, the total number of students in each group, and then as a bigger group and all that kind of stuff. But then we needed to break down each group. So I real quick made some adjustments, added in some numbers, and as soon as I had done it on my phone, boom, there you go. Everybody else had it when they opened it up. The tour guide that we were with, he's watching me over my shoulder and he goes, wow, that's awesome. They don't have to wait another month or two until it comes out in the app store to be updated and all that. Eric, I share the link in a way with parents. I go to the file, publish to the web. I go ahead and I publish it. And then I copy this link, and I think we all know that that link is long and ugly, and I am never going to be able to tell anybody and everybody what that link is. So then I also employ URL shortener. I've used Bitly, so I get a little bit of data back from it. You could do a tiny URL. The Bitlys are case sensitive, you know, so you got to kind of know, like if you emailed it out, if you email the link out, then you kind of make it a little bit easier. And then I also do have in my presentation, if you remember on this one, if you go to this, that writings, that presentation, it will tell you step by step how you have that to share out with parents. Promise, it's there. I knew like in 45 minutes, I'm not going to get through all of this stuff. So believe me, my presentation is jam packed. It is jam packed. It's all in there. I promise. Now, publishing it, there you go. Students, my 8th grader students, love it. Love it. Viewers need the link. Yes. And that does help protect in a way, because some of the stuff, I noticed, I think it was Sue that said she did something with the DC trip. Maybe some of your students, your own kids go, you know, you don't want all that stuff out there anyway. You kind of want to keep it protected. I don't put anything out there that if the app were to get into the wrong hands, that I don't put anything like that on there. But I do have names on there, and that's the piece that I want to make sure I keep contained as much as possible. With a Google Slides, you have to set it to anyone with the link, which means if you share it home to mom, mom could share it to grandma, grandma could share it to her friend, that kind of thing. I don't think that that happens by and large, not at all. And then you can't find it in the App Store. So it's not like people could randomly go and grab your app and get your information. Pros, cons, it's not an app. So when you say, hey, we've got the DC app, a lot of people's minds think of like, oh, I'm going to go to the App Store. Like, what's your app called? I'm going to grab it. They're not going to find it there because it's a Google slide. Ultimately, you can't control who all sees that. I talked about that a little bit. And then if you don't use a URL shortener like Bitly, you won't have any idea. Like, are people even using it? And that, to me, you can see a lot of time can be invested in creating this and tweaking it and adding to it and making it pretty and customizing, all that kind of stuff. You could invest a lot of time, and if no one's looking, there's probably no point in investing that time in that. So I would say use a shortener, just if for nothing else, that you kind of get that reaffirmation that people are looking. We had other ways of knowing that people were looking at our app, like our students would come up to Mrs. Brock, my co-leader, and would say, well, how come this isn't updated? Because I'm down at the elementaries, remember, she's up there with the 8th graders. And she would call me, she'd like, Sarah, you didn't update bus 5. I know, Alyssa, it was 11:30, I went to bed, I'm sorry, like, I'll get to it, you know, give me 15 minutes. And so the kids are definitely looking at it because there was a lot of value there for them. And then here's where I'm getting close to that time. I started with slides and I've moved on, and now we are using Google Sites. So that's like level 2. So play around with level 1, the Google Slides, get comfortable with it, decide what you do and you don't like about it. Maybe that's all that you need. Maybe that's all that you want to have for your parents, for your students, and that's great. Stick with it, stay there. If you're kind of feeling like I was, like I didn't like all of the linking out, I didn't like it going out to here and out to here and out to here. So I switched to a Google site and I've been very happy. So level 2 will take you through the ideas and the kind of like the background of how you can make a site work on a phone. It also works. And that's the other cool thing. Sites and slides will work on tablets, they'll work on Chromebooks, they'll work on desktops, they'll work on PCs and Macs and phones and tablet, like they'll just work on anything that can grab internet, which is amazing because we can't control what they have or what they don't have. And as long as they have internet on something, hey, you're in business, right? And then because of some other pieces of things that I really wanted that Google Sites even couldn't provide, I stepped into the world of Glide apps. Still very Google based. It's all based off of a Google sheet. I put it in with my site, so they still play nicely together. That is amazing. And then I also have, when you get to, if you ever go beyond and you get into that Glide apps, again, it'll link you out to another presentation that will give you far more detail than we could cover today. In that Google apps, I do have a couple of different app creation things that I did play around with. I saw somebody mention Appy Pie. I made an app in Appy Pie, 100% free. I actually was very happy. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, like what's it gonna take for it to be real? You know, like get it out there. And then the cost was a stumbling block. It was like, I was not gonna pay that for this trip. I don't get paid to do the trip. So I went and I talked with my superintendent. He was very impressed. He was very happy with it. We needed to pass it through legal and make sure that everything was, you know, okay with it. And so like, that's where you kind of, and then we kind of started talking about it, like, do we need to go that far? Is that necessary or not? So you got to kind of balance all of these things out, like what's best for your community, your school, for you, time, all that kind of thing. So yeah, AppyPie does cost. There are other ones like the MIT App Creator, I think. I maybe have that name wrong. Funkable is another one. And again, those are great, you know, keep iterating, keep going, start maybe with a slide, move to a site or move to AppyPie, and that becomes just the sky's the limit. So with that, I want to wrap it up and let you know that tomorrow morning, for me, it'll be very early in the morning for me, I will be presenting again on Google Classroom, and not teaching you Google Classroom, more the mindset and the thinking that you've got behind it, and how you can maybe modify some of the ways that you use Google Classroom to get a better start. And all of this springs from the remote learning that we've all just gone through. And it really did, I think, impact a lot of us. And it really made, especially down at my elementary level where I'm at, it really forced the teachers to look at how they were naming things, how they were dating or not putting dates on things, how they were writing out directions. So from the conversations and all of the support that I went through with them the last several months, I've got a Start Google Classroom on the right foot. So that will be tomorrow. I've got the link down here so that it will help you in whatever time zone that you're in. And I would love, love, love it if you connected with me, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on through my blog, and you go there and then you end up emailing me or you comment through there. Presenting tomorrow, and I'll be presenting a few other places. I do have a little tab on my website. For me tomorrow, it is 7 a.m., but that's Eastern Standard. So in about 12 hours from now, if I'm doing the math correctly. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me your time. I'm beyond excited to share this with us. It's a passion of mine, and I do know that it has a lot of fun and value. And so thank you for coming. And I'm excited to see other people in this whole conference and see what they have to share, because they have answers that I don't. So with that, I will wrap it up. If you have any comments or questions you want to pop in the chat, I'll stick around for a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.